Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Dave Hayes. This is another short rant about the Ukrainian counteroffensive. And yesterday I talked about how they were reaching out towards Kupiansk and maybe they could interdict the supply lines north of Kupiansk. Well, forget that. They have totally flowed south of the city and reached the river that it's on. So hey, we're really going to want to take a look at some maps here. Okay, this is the map. Again, this map is from ISW and the Institute for the Study of War. You can find all of this stuff at understandingwar.org. All credit to them. There's also the critical threats folks that contribute to these maps. And but the key thing here, we just really want to focus in and look at the blue, right? So yesterday we had the folks were right around here and they were, it's like, oh yeah, they're getting close to Kupiansk and they'll be able to shoot artillery up at this little part of the road and they'll be able to interdict it and that'll be really great, right? I wasn't thinking, that was a conservative estimate. Well, they've done what honestly, the Russians should have done, right? They've flowed in, they've advanced where they are not finding resistance, and they've been able to make it all the way to the Oskil River. Now, the terrain here, right, we've got, here's Kupiansk up, it's actually right here, and excuse my tiny little hand here, and there's this river, the Oskil River, which in some places is like a giant lake. A lot of the rivers in Ukraine seem to widen tremendously in places. And it runs all the way down. So they made it to the river. They've interdicted these supply lines or ground lines of communication. Although ISW's reporting says they're still fighting in this area, so maybe it's not solid, but they're really taking it out. And this river really makes a very strong boundary of protection, probably as far as it'll go, but it also protects them from counterattacks. Now, the Russian front lines, right? This is, of course, down here is where all the fighting's been, right? There's Lyshansk, and this is the bulge here. Somewhere in here is Sloviansk, and down here, Donetsk. And this is Donetsk province, right? This is what the Russians are trying to finish taking as one of their objectives. And Izyum has been a major part of that, right? It's one side of their attempted envelopment. They haven't gotten very far. There's actually some hellacious terrain right around here. I believe this is what I've seen the press refer to it as Sherwood Forest. And I did a short rant a while ago saying, yeah, if I had to attack down the road from Izyum, it would be a nope. Nope, not doing that. Let's come up with another plan. But the point is, this has been a major, an important part of the fighting. The forces here are a threat, and this is exactly what Ukraine wants to neutralize. And well, if you look at that blue, right, they've now cut their lines. And the Oskil River, right, this is this big thing. We have this big river that runs down here, and Oskil, the town of Oskil is here. So there are ways across it, but all these, whatever they've got, whatever the Russians have got, are going to have to get out from here, and they're going to have to make it over in this little choke point right here. They've got to get through there into Luhansk province, where maybe the roads aren't so good, and because there's probably a reason the ground lines of communication came down this way. So what we've got is a real offensive rolling on, and we're going to have to see what they do. Apparently, the Russians are moving forces back. They're redeploying forces that they redeployed before, and they're trying to shore this up. It's going to be hard for them, right? I mean, they are trying to move around, and here is where the Ukrainians have what are called the interior lines, right? Russia has to move around, has to move forces around. Ukraine moves within, and so that can be an important point, that Ukraine can move forces around better than the Russians can. So the Russians are having to take the long way around to get their forces back in there. And I don't know how far they've made it, but it has an air of scrambling. And the Russian military bloggers are complaining about this, right? We're getting more criticism. Yes, it's good you're reinforcing, but you shouldn't have moved these guys. And so we're just seeing things kind of get really serious. The Russians are no longer able to deny the success here. Meanwhile, in the south, there continues to be fighting, minor gains around Kherson. The Ukrainians are pushing these guys in multiple ways, in multiple fronts, and they're really achieving much more than the limited objectives that you might have thought they had, or that the reporting about the U.S. advice was, that the U.S. had said, hey, you want to make this a more limited thing, focus it on Kherson, and probably they are, right? They might have been putting their forces in, and this is just something that allowed them to take advantage of a situation without a major commitment of forces. And certainly the Ukrainians are being nimble here. This is way more movement than we've seen in this war. I mean, if you recall, right, this is a river, this is Lyshansk here, right? And the Russians have made such minor gains, right? Sure, they've taken up all the areas up there, right, that are along the Russian border. But down here in Donetsk, they've made very minor gains. This black line here, this is where, before the war started, this is where the separatists were, right? So this is where the Russians were able to operate before. Very minor gains in that area. Now, of course, to the south, they've taken a lot, right? But you're seeing, since things settled down, we haven't seen much movement until now. And so very interesting developments here. And, you don't want to take too much excitement about a war. A war is bloody, dirty business. But it is now just very interesting that we've got some movement. We'll have to see what happens tomorrow. Thank you for watching my short rant. I hope it was short and not too much of a rant. I'm Dr. Dave Hayes, and though I teach at Troy University, this video is my own work. Troy University has neither approved nor reviewed the content. So there. And if you want to learn more about Troy anyway, figure out who would hire a guy like this, you can always go to www.troy.edu. I also am going to have a little card popping up here that you can go see my bio and some information about where I teach, which will descend to shameless self-promotion, but I want more students, what can I say? And finally, the music you've been listening to is Tonight at 8 by Shane Ivers. So thank you for listening, and I hope you'll come back and enjoy another short rant.